Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zarrell.
I get people off. I look for the one guy who isn't getting off, and I make him get off.
With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick.
I am the smart. I am the smart. S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-R-T.
Visit us at IHateCritics.net, Everyone's a Critic Podcast.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle is CriticsPod. There you can check out our news posts, Sean's reviews. The podcast is there, the trailers, all that stuff. Please follow us there. Share it with your friends. Get them to follow us. Listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Alexa. Again, tell your friends. Help us grow the show. Subscribe to the show. Rate and review the show. Or read your reviews on the air. We haven't had one in a while. So we'd love to get one of those. If you're not doing it on Apple, let me know. Then I can go search for your review and I'll read it on the air. You can reach it on Facebook.
I love that we've kept I Hate Critics as our as our URL. That's still fun. We keep that name alive, and it's a perfect way to talk. Yeah, it says so much about us that's still a title for us.
Well, yeah, I mean, we never really used it, but yeah. I love the tagline, Everyone's a Critic, and I Hate Critics. That's so me. I even wore it to a metal festival this weekend. Got absolutely no comments on it. My brother had a Big Trouble Little China shirt on, and right and left, people coming up to him, that's an awesome shirt.
Isn't that always the way?
Patreon's the best way to help support the podcast. IHateCritics.net/Patreon. We have a PayPal link there as well, and the podcast merch. There's a tab you can click on. If you want one of our shirts or hats or whatever else they sell on TeePublic. And if you get something, take a picture, post it on our social medias, and this is great. Let's get to the news. We'll start with Robert Pattinson as Batman.
Good choice. Seriously, I mean, he's a good choice. He's become a really good actor if you've been paying attention. The Lost City of Z, and I wasn't a big fan of the movie Good Times, but he was really good in it. And he makes solid choices as an actor. And he's young and handsome, and he's got just the right kind of vibe to be Bruce Wayne and Batman. And I just love. I also enjoy bathing in the tears of the internet, and that really makes me, happy.
Yeah, we found out while we were at this music festival. My brother, we had no real access to internet. I guess we could have looked, but he was like, "Why is the internet all pissed off? They were really mad when Ben Affleck was." I'm like, "Well, we've kind of been away from it. I'll find out tomorrow." Talk to Sean. And then I looked, and Josh is already whining about it online. So. That's not entirely fair. He just rolled his eyes.
His son appeared to be doing the whining. He posted a picture on our Facebook page of his son lying face down, looking to be in tears over this.
Which I'm sure Josh put on him. It wasn't real.
Poor kid.
But no, I'm with you. I don't see anything wrong with it. It's Batman. It's not like it's some Shakespeare character. So I mean, Val Kilmer and George Clooney. I mean, no one's really messed it up.
Yeah, years ago, people said the same things about Michael Keaton can't be Batman. He's a comedy guy. He can't be Batman. He was a great Batman. So
they whined about Affleck, and he was a great Batman.
Yeah.
They didn't whine about Clooney and Val Kilmer. And do you remember those movies? Not that they were bad, but the movies were.
The movies were. For sure.
I thought they did re-release Batman and Robin at the theater.
That is bizarre.
For Josh's 40th birthday. And speaking of bizarre, Chris Rock is rebooting the Saw franchise.
How is that working? Like, are you going back and remaking the original? What are you doing? I don't understand rebooting the Saw franchise.
And I'm not positive it's a total reboot or he's just doing something within the world or what. But apparently he has an idea and they liked it. So they're going to let him try it.
Yeah.
So I'm at least intrigued, if nothing else.
I mean, he's a smart guy. He makes interesting movies. It's been a while since he's made anything himself. But the last few things he did, like with Top 5 and I can't remember the name of it now. The movie he made about his wife.
I think I
Love My Wife. That is a underrated movie, and he is a really unique voice when it comes to making movies that are more than just comedy. Like I said, Top 5 had a great deal of depth and drama to go with the comedy. And I'm interested. I'm interested to see what he can do with this. He doesn't really have hardly any experience in the horror genre that I'm aware of.
Right, but I mean, all of us like different things, and so he comes out and he's a comedian, so now he's, pigeonholed into that corner. I mean, he's had a couple of dramatic roles here and there, but for the most part, he hasn't gotten to expand his wings, though this is the perfect chance to maybe, if he's got a good idea, hopefully with a real budget behind him, he'll be able to do something fun with it.
With James Wan and the other guy whose name escapes me right now involved, I think that's certainly a good sign. Those two guys were the shepherds of that series for so long.
Yeah, so if nothing else, intrigued. I mean,
I'm glad to see somebody else gets the Saw franchise. That's nice.
Right, and hopefully with his name, they might allow him a little bit of freedom, but at the same time, hopefully they don't totally handcuff him too. And be like, well, no, you got to stay within these parameters. But we'll see if it even happens. Sometimes this news comes out and then it never sees the light of day.
True.
Speaking of things that I don't want to see the light of day, ClownadoRobert. I don't even know what this is. I just saw it. Was it trending or a headline or something? I didn't watch it.
I sent you a message and you just go, no. The only response I got from Bob was no.
Yeah, so I don't know. We didn't do much with Sharknado, so why even acknowledge this one? But
it doesn't even make any sense because it's just a bunch of killer clowns, basically. But they're not even, there's a storm, but they're not even, it's not like a tornado made of clowns.
Oh.
And I wanted to see a tornado made of clowns. Don't call your movie Clownado if you're not going to deliver a tornado filled with clowns.
So that's not even cool. I don't know. I mean, you have the It movies, and you have that movie called Clown that was actually pretty good. I don't know. We don't need any more clown movies.
You have a clown phobia?
Movies. I don't have a clown phobia. I'm just, how when one thing has success, everything just starts ripping it off. And this seems to be that kind of thing.
True that.
But something that looks very good is Midsommar.
Oh, what a great trailer. What another great trailer. This guy is, Ari Aster, is just looking better and better every time. I'm just so digging what this guy's up to. And I cannot wait. This trailer just is just as much, even more intriguing than the last one. I have no idea what they're doing here, but it's funny is that right up the road from us, not 30 minutes away, is a Swedish enclave called Bishop Hill, and I've been to festivals there, and I've seen those outfits, and I'm now totally creeped out.
Quite that colorful, but yeah. Yeah. I love the trailer too. I can't wait for it to come out. Part of me wishes that they just did the one trailer and I never heard anything else, because it does show a little bit more. You still don't know what's going on, no. But it definitely has me even more interested, if that's even possible.
The studio is behind it too. That's really cool to see the studio really behind it. They put up a gigantic standee at our local movie theater. It's huge. Yeah, they're planning big things for this movie.
Man, I just hope the audience doesn't screw it up like they did Hereditary.
That was the worst movie I've ever seen.
Now that Josh is gone, I feel like I can trash the audience. Even my brother, and I'm not trashing Josh.
Right.
But my brother, he liked it too, but his big thing was it was so, the scene where, he kills his sister and then him kind of just waiting up in bed. He goes, that was the peak of the movie for him, the best part. And if you took that part away, the movie falls apart. I'm like, but it's in the movie. I mean, he did it, so it doesn't fall apart. I mean, right. Yeah, sure. If you took the best parts of any movie away, they fall apart. And so and when I look at movies like Enemy and Gone Girl, they're so perfect. And the fact that there's so much room for error. And if they make one false step, those movies fall apart. That's what makes him even better. And I throw Hereditary in that mix. And
the high wire act,
right?
You know, that chance of imminent doom at every turn. I love that. That's what's so great about like Night of the Virgin too. Is another one of those movies where it's so insane. It's dancing on the head of a needle and just can fall at any moment. That's beautiful.
I still haven't seen that one either, and I need to. But yeah, and I guess what Hereditary suffers from is similar to Rosemary's Baby. I guess the ending, kinda, but it earns everything it gets. So
it's far more bold than that. Really.
I agree. But you have similar lines, and people can't help but compare.
I saw a theory. Somebody, I don't know why anybody thought this was a theory and not just something everybody was kind of aware of, but somebody did an entire YouTube video talking about, well, you see, Charlie was Payman the whole time. Well, no shit. What movie were you watching?
Yeah. That's the back to audiences. But no, this is the most anticipated movie for me. I already have it penciled in as my favorite of the year. So, and I don't know. I can't wait.
Yeah.
When is it coming out? Do you know?
I don't have the date in my head.
Just please don't ruin it.
It's coming soon, though.
That's good. Well, this week we've got some new movies. I guess we'll start with John Wick. It'll be kind of a Keanu Reeves. We got 2 Keanu Reeves movies, but I think Patrick Swayze is going to rule the. We should have done Point Blank. Point Blank.
Point Break. Yeah.
Jeez, I can't even talk.
Well, we still could. I mean, both of us could probably talk about
That's
Point Break
true.
without having. Because really, we don't have much to say about my own private Idaho.
It's true. But John Wick Chapter 3.
John Wick Chapter 3 is completely awesome, just like each movie in this franchise has been completely awesome. It picks up in the immediate aftermath of John Wick Chapter 2, in which John Wick is now on the run from just about every assassin in the world. He's got a $15 million bounty on his head. He's banned from the Continental now. He can't go back there. And he's got to figure out a way to survive for however long he can until he can find somebody who can absolve him of what he did. And just so cool. It's just so awesome. The fight scenes are incredible. Keanu Reeves is such a brilliantly physical actor, and with the right director to really give him the opportunity to be physical and not have to concern himself with delivering a whole lot of plot or exposition. He doesn't have to talk a lot as John Wick. It really works out for him. And I sound like I'm insulting him. I'm not. It's like Mark Wahlberg. He's a guy who just needs a strong hand as a director to give him the proper direction to become a great actor. And Chad Stahelski, I don't necessarily think of him as a visionary director, but he's got 3 in a row now where he's hit home runs with each of these John Wick movies. He's not done anything outside of these to show me that he's got any more talent beyond this, but he's a tremendous action director. He knows how to build tension and suspense within an action scene and keep upping the ante and finding new ways to make it even more exciting this movie opens with this amazing knife fight. Like, it is just so cool. It's in this ancient weapons museum in New York, and they just keep busting open it's him versus like 3 different guys, and they're busting open these display cases and pulling knives and throwing them at each other and just narrowly missing. It's so awesome. And it's got such great pace. And it really does. I don't know how much of it is Keanu, but it really looks like him throughout. He looks like he's doing a lot of his own stunts here, even if he's 54 years old, by the way. Which doesn't seem right, does it?
Well, yeah. No, I was having that. I was at a concert this weekend, and all the guys in the bands are like in their 50s, and it's like, that just doesn't seem right. But I guess I am pushing 40, so yeah, they're 10 years older than us.
Keanu doesn't look 50, though. He looks younger than me.
Yeah. I mean, Keanu is such a fascinating guy. Because even watching him in interviews, or he had that big thing about where he talked about what happens after you die this week that kind of went viral.
I didn't see that. What was that about?
I didn't see it either. I just read the headline. But he's just he's a guy you can't figure out, which then makes it when you watch his movies, it's like you don't know the guy. There's almost a Nicolas Cage thing to it, but even Nicolas Cage, you kind of know he's just weird. Keanu, I don't know how weird he is, or if you just can't. There's just something mystical or something. There's some mystery behind him that you just don't really know about him.
He's such a blank space on which to project upon, and that's what great directors capture about him is the ability to project a character upon him. One of the great things that they do with John Wick is, and as a wrestling fan, I'm sure you'll understand the terminology, is that they put him over repeatedly for how great he is. And in wrestling, putting somebody over is building somebody's character up and making them seem bigger and more important than they may actually be. And one of the things that they've done from the very beginning is build this character as, at some point in this movie, somebody refers to him as the actual specter of death. Like, it's just so cool. And he does appear like that at times. And there's a moment where he appears out of the darkness, and it's like, wow, he does look awesome. He does look like just death in human form. Or they'll say something like, "You're the one who punched the devil in the face. Now you got to deal with it." Like, that's such a great ways of putting this character over and making you buy in that even though he's this wiry Keanu Reeves, he can kill anybody in any way.
Yeah, I'm trying not to fast forward the show to 89 by comparing the two, but let's not do that yet. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen the John Wick movies, and I know I should. Everybody seems to like them a lot. So it's the same director as the first two?
Yeah, Chad Stahelski has directed all three of them. Same writer, too. His name escapes me at the moment, but yeah, the writer-director team has been together throughout, even though there are two extra credited writers on this as well.
That's fascinating, and it's doing phenomenal this week.
Huge. Yeah, $57 million for the weekend, nearly $100 million worldwide already, and much higher than the second movie. And, of course, the first movie wasn't even a hit until it reached Blu-ray and DVD and became a hit.
Yeah, that's kind of what's cool about this franchise, too, is it wasn't instant, a little word of mouth, and which you don't see as much anymore. I guess you get a little bit online, but everything seems so disposable, and the fact that John Wick's kind of become a franchise is it's a cool thing. I don't know, did it come out of anything?
No, I think it's it's original. Yeah, I think it's an original property, which makes it that much more new and exciting. It's awesome that they found something new to do.
That's awesome.
And may have single-handedly saved the studio.
Really?
Apparently, I think Lionsgate was on its way out. They were falling apart, and then this one comes out and makes them $100 million, and now they're talking about like still being alive again. This is the biggest thing they've had since the Hunger Games. They hadn't had a hit since the last Hunger Games movie.
I'm sure Disney would have just bought them up anyway.
Still probably will. I mean,
A Dog's Journey. I know we don't have a whole lot to say, but it did come out. You did see it.
Yeah, I did see it. This is
anything out of the ordinary in this movie?
I mean, it's tacky, manipulative, garbage. The dog says some cute stuff. So basically, the idea is that this dog keeps coming back. It's got multiple different lives. It keeps coming back from the dead and as different dogs and coming back to the same owner. The first movie was Dennis Quaid, and here it's Dennis Quaid's granddaughter. Dennis Quaid asks him to come back as her dog and take care of her. And he keeps coming back and finding his way back to her and over and over again and trying and just be part of her life. The thing that I hate about this is not necessarily the dogs or even the little kids in the movie who are overly cute. It's the side characters are so poorly written and such garbage. Like, they write these characters as these like comic book villains of just horrible human beings. Her mom is like this monster who stole her inheritance and drinks all the time and wants to be a singer on a cruise ship and leaves her kid alone at night. And she's just this cartoon villain that the movie gives no weight to. She's just evil incarnate. And it's like human beings just aren't that way. They're not all terrible. Some people might be. Trump might be. But other than that, I'm saying that the way that they paint this character, she's so comically terrible that you can't invest in her in any real way. And she doesn't talk like a person. She says horribly insulting things out loud that most people wouldn't do. And then they take that character model and they apply it to every other character that they want to eliminate. So she has an abusive boyfriend who gets that treatment and becomes that cartoon villain, and then the boy that she likes has a girlfriend who becomes that cartoon villain. And they all get assigned the same evil character traits of saying horrible things and being mean to dogs throughout. And the dog, of course, doesn't like them.
Speaking of mean things to say about dogs, I'm glad this movie is not about, I'm glad my dad didn't tell his dog to come watch my kids, because once it's dead, I'm not getting a new one kind of thing, so it's going to be done. Make a movie about me. I've gone on very little sleep, folks, so if I'm extra dickish today, try to enjoy it.
Yeah, that's great. It really does seem like that dog knows who you are, but we're not getting him. Say goodbye. What's that? The dog said your name? I don't care.
So does the dog actually talk to the people?
No. I mean, he finds a way to communicate that he's the same dog by doing this trick where he bites his tail and spins in a circle. That's how Dennis Quaid knows it's the same dog, but that's pretty much it.
A lot more time on this movie than I thought we'd spend on it. The son is also a star. Did you see that one?
I did. Charles Melton and Yara Shahidi are the stars here, and this is a teen romance. She's a high school senior whose family, she and her parents, her younger brother, are about to be deported back to Jamaica after having lived in New York for nearly a decade. She's trying to do one last Hail Mary, talking to a lawyer about trying to get one last stay so they can stay in the country. And that same day, she meets Charles Melton, who is this romantic. He saves her life. He happened to have earlier in the day he wrote down the phrase "Deus ex machina" in his poetry book, and later on the day he sees her walking through a train station wearing a jacket that says Deus ex machina, and he believes that it must be fate. He loses her in the crowd, then they happen to be on the same train, so he follows her off the train, and then she's almost hit by a car, and he rescues her. And there are a number of other things that happen that seem to be making this seem as if fate is acting to put these two together. There's a character played by John Leguizamo who has a almost accidental involvement throughout this whole relationship. It sounds cheesy, but it actually does work surprisingly well. I was surprised. And this maybe could be that after we talked about that movie before, After was so bad that it kind of lowered the bar for all other millennial romances. But it helps that these two are really really attractive, charming people who have attractive, charming things to say. Yara Shahidi really has a lot of depth in her character, and what she's going through has a relevance to today, being somebody who's being deported by an evil government that's not taking care of people and instead is trying to shove people out of the country who don't deserve that. Hardworking people who just want to live the American dream, getting kicked out of the country for no good reason. She fits that model. She's super smart. She's just a year away from going to college and becoming something big and important because she's very smart. So that extra little depth and relevance to it gives it a little bit more weight than most of these movies have. And then they have great chemistry. She and Charlie Melton and Yara Shahidi have a really good chemistry, and they're very romantic together. And when he says that he only needs an hour to make her fall in love with him, it's cheesy, but he sells it well, and that's really the key, is that he sells the whole idea well.
That's cool. How is it doing critically? Are they liking it, or is it all
mixed?
over the place?
Last I checked, it was at 46% in Rotten Tomatoes. It does have a lot of those elements that do turn people off. If you're already predisposed, and in many ways I am too, against millennial romances, then you're probably there. You can find many things to be angry about with this movie. The way it cheats. I know you'd hate it. Because it's got all those little convenient, little things, like it's all connected, and you'd get annoyed with that. You'd probably hate the Leguizamo character, was my guess. But over that, I think it works. I thought it was charming. I thought these two characters were charming, and that was enough for me, and especially coming after. I got a low bar.
I was gonna say, I wonder which type of critics like it more, the Generation X critics or the Baby Boomer critics.
Hard to say.
I imagine the Gen X is probably more forgiving than the Baby Boomers, but what do I know? Room 37, The Mysterious Death of Johnny Thunders.
Yeah, so now you're a New York Dolls fan?
Yes.
How well, you know the band pretty well?
I know the band a little bit. I mean, I'm a casual fan, like not a diehard or anything like that, but I'm familiar with them, and they're kind of an underappreciated band that kind of changed the shape of rock and roll, or it went from those rock bands to the punk movement. They kind of transitioned from Boston to the Ramones, and they were kind of that glam punk thing that started it, I guess. And they don't really get the credit for. I mean, they get it within the music industry, but not so much for the fans. Nobody really knows who they are. I mean, even when Josh was here, he referred to David Johansen as
Buster
Poindexter. So that's what I think most people would do outside of people who are familiar with the Dolls. So, but yeah.
What do you know about Johnny Thunders?
I know that he left the Dolls. He formed a band called Heartbreakers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then ultimately he had a drug problem. He got mixed in with some bad people. They thought he died of an overdose, or that was the way they ruled it. It could have been foul play. He also had cancer. A lot of things that it's just one of those rock mysteries that no one seems to know the answers. Do they answer it here?
Not very well, because it's really not that much of a mystery. He had undiagnosed leukemia. He was dying regardless of his drug abuse, and that's pretty much what likely killed him, was the stress of just having leukemia and taking methadone, and just wearing out his heart, basically. But the idea here is that you're going to try and solve this mystery. The Cordero brothers are the directors here, and basically they see an opportunity to exploit this character and this man for the final 48 hours of his life, basically kind of speculating on what might have happened to him. Their speculation includes him having been dosed with LSD at a bar 2 nights earlier, and him hallucinating his way through the streets of New Orleans, him being robbed of his methadone and all of his money, and not being able to find help from anyone, and just these really false-feeling scenes. Like, I can't imagine. I know hospitals can be hard on drug addicts, especially a guy who's looking for methadone, but a guy who obviously looks the way this character looks, like he's got something seriously wrong with him. I have a hard time believing people would be as cruel to him as they are in this movie, but that's just me. They really play that up to a degree that's really ugly. But they do a lot of that. They have this speculative thing about him visiting a drug dealer in the middle of the swamp who gives him methadone, and then later he ends up murdering that drug dealer. Like, really? You're going to just... But then that may have been a hallucination brought on by the LSD. We don't know. He keeps waking up in different places and not remembering what he did, and of course, nobody has any idea. Nobody knows where Johnny Thunder was for these 2 days. They don't know what he was doing during this time. So it's open to any kind of horrific, explanation you want to make up, and that's really what the movie is doing. Is just kind of exploiting his death to make a movie, and it's really ugly that way, and I don't care for it.
Yeah, I've never. Like, this mystery, I'm aware of it, but I've never really gave it too much thought. You hear some of the things I've read is that he didn't have a lethal dose. On the autopsy came back or something that there wasn't enough drugs in the system to have killed him, being overdose, and that he was mixed up with the wrong crowd. And I don't know that if it's fair to say he would have died anyway from the cancer, because he would have. But at the same time, it doesn't seem to be. Usually, you could find out something if they did if they drugged him. That would have been all part of the autopsy. If they did something else to him, that would be part of the autopsy as well. So
that's part of the conspiracy is that the New Orleans police just saw a drug addict and dismissed it.
Right, but
maybe.
But they did do an autopsy, so I mean, I don't know.
But I mean, he didn't know he had leukemia. He wasn't aware that so we have
advanced leukemia. Yeah.
And you combine that with a guy who's taking that much methadone, and found dead in a hotel room. It just makes sense. Now, if you want to apply some kind of criminal, horrific thing that happens, I really don't think I think it's just as simple as a guy who didn't know he had cancer and was taking a lot of methadone. His heart gave out. I know people don't want to accept something that simple, but it really does appear to be that simple.
Yeah, and I was reading stuff that his family wants the case reopened and blah blah blah. And I mean, yeah, I understand that feeling, especially from a family member. Mm-hmm. But
a movie like this isn't going to do him any favors. This is not going to help anybody. This is just a pair of filmmakers who are trying to exploit a somewhat well-known tragedy to make a movie.
Right. As far as a fan into like conspiracy theories and, wrongful death stuff, I mean, this one is lower on my radar. There's some that are more obvious. I've been watching this documentary series on Amazon. Oh my God, what's it called? Something about Inside the Ropes or something like that.
Sounds familiar.
Dark Side of the... Let me pull it up on Amazon here real quick.
Oh, is this the wrestling documentary?
It is called Dark Side of the Ring. It's several different episodes on Amazon.
It's on Amazon? I didn't even know it was on Amazon. Wow.
Well, you have to buy it. Oh. It's not an Amazon thing. But they did Bruiser Brody, and that is interesting because he definitely got stabbed. Yeah. There's no... I don't know how he died. It must have been an overdose of some... there was...
No, he got stabbed.
And, you have... But it was just really interesting. Everybody's saying one thing, and another guy's saying another thing. He was there, and people are afraid of getting stabbed themselves, and...
There's a lot of stories about Puerto Rico and wrestling where things get dicey. Puerto Rico takes their wrestling very seriously.
And those kind of things are more... I mean, that one, like I said, he definitely got stabbed. The guy who did it got off for defending himself, or self-defense was his reasoning. But
he was also the single most popular man in Puerto Rico at the time as well.
Yep. And it was just kind of that to me is more fascinating, and no one really knows, but at the same time it's pretty obvious. But, you have people there saying different things in this documentary, so it's at least there's something interesting. Although at the same time it feels weird exploiting somebody's death to make...
At least they have a lot of witness testimony in that, where there's not, there's no real witness testimony to base anything on.
But even the witness testimony is outside the room. Yeah. So no one was actually in it, even though... I mean, it's kind of like the OJ thing. We all know we did it, but we didn't see it. Anything else before we move on?
Just don't even bother with this with Room 37. It's not worth your time. It's just them trying to exploit a conspiracy theory that is based in a lot of speculation and far too much speculation than any actual truth.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event for the linear, legitimate, and universally recognized, undisputed classic.
Train Spot. I mean, my own Private Idaho.
Or Point Break.
Point Break. We should have done Point Break. What the fuck is wrong with us?
Let's just do Point Break. What the hell? My Own Private Idaho is River Phoenix and Keanu Reeves in a story of gay hustlers who one of them is searching for his mom and has narcolepsy, and the other one is a son of privilege who is kind of showing up his family name by being a hustler on the streets rather than being with his angry rich father. And this is Gus Van Sant, and what Gus Van Sant likes to do in most of his movies that aren't mainstream movies like Good Will Hunting, he likes to just sort of observe and keep the camera at a distance and keep the audience at a distance to just sort of watch something unfold. And sometimes that doesn't work, like in Jerry, which is just absolutely unwatchable. But then you get a movie like Elephant, which is astonishingly great. A movie about a school shooting. Essentially, it's Columbine, but it's from a very unique and withdrawn perspective, where you're just sort of observing a day in the life of some kids, and then suddenly this thing is happening, and that's a really powerful film. Then you get a movie like Last Days, the Kurt Cobain movie he made, and the approach again is more like Jerry, where it's paint drying. And, thankfully, here you've got two movie stars who are in charge, and having two big movie stars makes a difference, because Keanu Reeves and River Phoenix are just really charismatic and compelling. Even as there's nothing happening, there's no plot.
Yeah, paint's drying in the background, but they're acting in front of it.
Yes. And they're energetic and they're entertaining, and that keeps it going. And it's a movie that's got some emotional weight to it, especially from River Phoenix's performance, of course. And I really appreciate a lot of this movie. I don't really know how I feel about it exactly, but I like the ending a lot, and I'm of two minds as to exactly what I think happened at the ending, and I kind of like being in that place of trying to decide what I think happened.
And I don't even know that it's more about, I was going to say paint drying just to be funny, but it's not so much a story, it's just more of, this is in this timeline, this is kind of what happened. And I'm thinking of movies that I find similar to it, E Tu Mama Tambien and, Train Spotting, and I like E Tu Mama Tambien the best. I do think the acting here really makes this better than it is. Mm-hmm. I like it better than Train Spotting, but at the same time, I wouldn't, to me, I don't know why you would like this one and not that one, kind of. There's somebody, not you in particular, but just... it's just kind of watching stuff happen, and just kind of a timeline of stuff that goes on without really a story being there. But it just really comes back to the performances. I mean, it's weird for me to see Keanu Reeves. I mean, I know it's not weird. It's just Keanu Reeves is such a different guy that it's. Sorry, I have something, an itch in my nose, and it's making it hard to talk.
You need a minute?
No, I'm going to fight through this if it's part of the show. I have a hard time talking anyway, so what's new? I mean, I'm not as familiar with River Phoenix. I know about him. Mm-hmm. I know that he passed away. Was this his last movie or something, or did he have stuff after this?
I don't remember if this is the last one or not. It's close, because he dies not too long after this.
He's definitely phenomenal in it. Obviously, his brother is phenomenal. But for me, it was, the Keanu Reeves I know is Speed. That was what, I mean, I was aware of Bill and Ted, but it was more like, oh, the guy from Speed was in that movie. I had to go backwards with it. And then he does The Matrix, and I hate The Matrix. And, there's different, but he's just always been a guy you could never figure out. And it's so rare today in any form of entertainment. Everything is so accessible, and he is a guy you can't access. And maybe I'm overthinking it. I don't know what it is, but there's just something neat about him. And then you see something like this where he's never been like this in any other movie. It's just it's truly a phenomenal performance. And you put those two together, really everybody in the movie is great, but those two as movie stars, it's, if nothing else, interesting. And it's not my favorite thing in the world, but it's, I guess it's interesting. It's
interesting enough. Like I said, it's not a classic or anything, but it is in the style of Gus Van Sant, and in that unusually observational style of his. It ranks, with his better work. And it really does come down to those two guys and being so entertainment. Even the supporting characters are colorful. Like they have a Fagin-like dad on the streets named Bob, who is this bizarre sort of character that they at once kind of respect and at the same time they don't, and they're real dicks to him, and I kind of liked that. And his passing becomes pivotal at the end in a very interesting way, in a really fantastic scene. And this really strange juxtaposing scene between where River Phoenix is and where Keanu Reeves is. They're very close in proximity, but in very different emotional places.
Right. Yeah. They even where they start is they come from two totally different lifestyles. There's just so many things that have them so far apart yet so close. And
yeah, there's an unrequited thing between the two of them. You can sense that River Phoenix's character is coming to terms with actually being gay, whereas Keanu's character, he does it just to get paid, and also kind of just that knowing fuck you to his parents. Like, this is the last thing my dad would ever want me to do, so I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And that heartbreak and the mounting heartbreaks that River Phoenix goes throughout the movie, and the way his narcolepsy. He's a narcoleptic character. So narcolepsy, for those who don't know, you get stressed, you fall asleep, and you can fall asleep anywhere at any time, and you have no control over it. And the way it sort of represents these little tiny deaths throughout for him is really fascinating. I think at the end, he's dead. At the end, I think he died, and that the way that Gus Van Sant's camera is so far away from him and him at the end, he's getting picked up by somebody and put in a car and driven away. It has a sort of magical quality to it where it kind of looks like it's Keanu who's picked him up and put him in this car and is about to drive away. And that's kind of what his heaven might be, is him being there, even though it would be almost impossible for him to be where he is at that moment in any way that is believable. It would be very convenient or even forced to have him actually be there. So I really dig the way that they play that ending.
No, me too. And I guess I don't really have an opinion. It doesn't really, either way, he's kind of just dead inside. I don't know. It's just a neat little movie. It's one of those where when you're doing this on a weekly basis like we are, plus living life and then having busy weekends, it's kind of one I wish I would have had more time with instead of, be able to have a conversation prior to just doing it now. Because as we talk about it, I'm liking it more than I did, originally when I saw it. But it's still, I thought it was, I keep going back to interesting. I thought it was, watchable and, interesting enough, during the first viewing. Mm-hmm. So there's that.
It's a very compelling movie, and I didn't know how I honestly, it took me forever to figure out exactly how I felt about it. And then I started comparing it with Jerry and Last Days, and then Elephant, and coming around on it. And it's so weird to look at Gus Van Sant's career, and you look. Good Will Hunting is not representative of who Gus Van Sant is at all.
No, I mean, that's definitely more representative of Matt Damon.
Absolutely. And
Robin Williams. Yeah, I mean, part of it goes back to how hard I want to work, Like Y Tu Mama Tambien, the work was easier. It was more fun. Train Spotting, I never really felt like doing the work on that one. I just said I don't like it.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I did the work, I might. We got probably something, Danny Boyle's there's something artistic about him. Sometimes I don't like to try that hard with this stuff. And this one, I was doing the work, but I was kind of not wanting to do it. And, it would have been nice. I don't know. It's just one of those where if I did a little bit more work, I think I would have liked it a little better than I did. But it is what it is. I mean, do you have that? Am I off base when I say something like that? Doing the the work.
Oh, I get what you're saying. There's definitely a lot that the audience has to bring to this, and you have to participate in this movie in ways that you may not want to.
As a critic,
it's not like a passive watch.
I mean, as a critic, how do you just sometimes not do the work? I mean, how do you? Because I gotta imagine there's days where you don't want to do it.
Right.
So.
It's mostly the movie's work to convince me to do the work, and my own Private Idaho did convince me to participate with it in the end.
Perfect. All right, we can start the show.
Since this is Aunt Bethany's 80th Christmas, I think she should lead us in the saying of grace.
What, dear? Grace! Grace! She passed away 30 years ago.
Before we get to the real... Or are we going to do Point Break? Do Point Break at the end. Cold Feet for Queen and Country, Fright Night Part 2, How I Got into College, Miracle Mile. Seen any of those?
I wanted to, but there's a couple of them. Like one of them was on HBO, and I don't have $15 a month to pay for HBO. So then there's one that was I kind of thought about it, and then the other ones just weren't available. Like I was shocked to see that Fright Night 2 is not available.
Yeah, I mean I've seen it. I don't have really any memory of it.
Yeah, me too.
The rest of them I haven't seen. I have HBO. I should have. You should have put that as part of. I should just use my Amazon account. All right. Well, Roadhouse. Roadhouse turns 30, and I'd never seen it before.
I cannot believe you've never seen the single sleaziest movie ever made. This movie is so sleazy. Like, you need a shower after watching Roadhouse. It's so gross. Patrick Swayze is Dalton, a.k.a. the Cooler. He's a bouncer. He's the greatest bouncer in the world. He is called to a small Kansas town to be the bouncer, but be the cooler at the Double Deuce. In this small town in Kansas, it is run by a guy named Brad Wesley, played by Ben Gazzara. And it's funny, there's the town I'm from, Princeton, is about the size of the town in this movie, and for a time we had a Brad Wesley. He was like everything. He was the mayor, and he had his own business, and he was running other businesses out of town, and like trying to keep other people from being in business in town. It was really funny, and so I've got a kind of a weird connection to Roadhouse in that way.
He likes to hire people that skim from the... Or he likes to do business with people that skim from the owners, and
yeah, he basically robs the owners like kind of a small town gangster thing. He runs the town and steals from other business owners and uses intimidation tactics to do it. And this one owner decides he's tired of it and brings in Dalton to fight back. And
boy, does he ever!
He really does. Oh man, this movie is hilariously terrible. Rowdy Harrington is the director here, and he's such a sleaze. It's just so sleazy and so disgusting. One of my favorite scenes of all time. That it's one of the biggest laughs I've ever had watching a movie. The first time when I saw Roadhouse for the first time, there's this sleazy bouncer dude who gets fired by Swayze while he's having sex with an apparent 15-year-old girl, according to the movie. And he's telling the girl, "I'm going to make you my regular Saturday night thing." And it's just so gross. It is the grossest thing ever. And it's like, and the way the guy says it is beautiful. Like he's really giving this girl the ultimate compliment. It's so disgusting. And that just type of thing just happens throughout this movie where it's just so gross. And then you have this juxtaposition with Swayze, who is not classy, but like he's just so zen to a point of being dead. Like he just nothing affects him. And he's just, this movie is bafflingly, bizarrely, disgustingly terrible and disgusting at the same time.
He's basically a Zen Martin Riggs, only not as good at anything. He can't even smoke a cigarette right. I mean, you can tell Patrick Swayze doesn't smoke. And not that I really care, I don't want to, but when you can notice that stuff, that's not...
And what a weird, unnecessary detail to have.
Right.
The smoking doesn't play a role in this.
God, he sucks at smoking. Let's write that out of the script, Why not? And really, with him being that zen and the health and all that, why would he smoke?
Tai Chi, He's all oiled up and doing Tai Chi, and then there's that old farmer guy just standing in the distance watching him, just staring at him for like a really long time. that same farmer at the end when they go skinny dipping. Him and Kaylee Lynch are going skinny dipping. There's the old farmer guy watching them skinny dip. Like, what is with this movie? What are with these characters? Who puts this together? Who thinks of this stuff?
Yeah, but I mean, that's the one thing I could get out of it. I understand if you want the sex stuff, aside from that really creepy scene early on, the sex stuff involving Patrick Swayze, at least I see the appeal of that in this movie. But everything else is just, it's so, I don't know how at any point, because people like this for real, not just to laugh at, and I don't get that at all.
I don't understand that, how you cannot just find this movie hysterically funny.
You've got several movies that have come out before this movie that figured it. I mean, Lethal Weapon was before this movie, and this one literally went from a bartender skimming off the top to people dying. I mean, even a gangster's not going to want to do business with a guy like that. So, I mean, it really escalated.
Well, the bartender was his nephew, though. He wants his nephew to be enriched.
I know, but Fredo was a brother. It didn't work out for him.
I love laughing at this movie so much. Sam Elliott is in this movie and is funny and awesome at the same time. Like, you totally buy.
He is cool as I've never seen.
He's so cool, right?
He is cooler in Roadhouse than he is in The Big Lebowski. And that, I mean, but that's it. It's just cool, and there's nothing behind it.
There are a lot of women who watch Roadhouse and it's like, yeah, Swayze's great, but I'm here for Sam Elliott.
I get that. What I don't get is why women are in this bar to begin with.
Right.
Like, that, you could easily put that in the script. Like, we need to get women to this bar. Here's what we got to do to get them there.
Yeah.
It's a good way to start instead of having, women who would never be at a club like this there from all these horrible fights that
just surrounded by rapists, just rapists everywhere in this bar. It's so gross. The characters are so disgusting. There's a character played by Patrick Swayze's brother who plays it as a small cameo in this movie. It's a guy who's just rubbing a girl's boobs. Like, some guy offers him the chance to to kiss his wife's boobs for $20, and that's a full scene in this movie that takes place for some fucking reason. And I ain't got $20.
I mean, I guess that's
horrible. It's just horrible.
Yeah, it adds nothing to the plot.
Nothing. There's so many scenes like that too, though.
And I suppose you could say it's funny, I guess, but that's not enough to keep it in the movie.
Well, but I don't think anybody making this movie knows how funny this is. I don't think they have any awareness at all. That's what makes it such a glorious boondoggle, is that they don't realize how gross they are. They think this is sexy action.
Which is insane, because a lot of these people were involved with Lethal Weapon. So it's like, this movie exists. You put it in a bar with bouncers over the fact that, really, it just kind of, I hate saying it escalated quickly, because that's just lazy, but that's what happened.
Yeah, no, you're right, because there's like these giant explosions in this movie. And, like, there's a body count. This movie's got a serious body count to it. At one point, and of course it's the greatest point of the movie, is when Swayze rips a guy's throat out. He just rips his throat right out and just holds his body up to Brad Wesley. Wesley! It's so cheesy.
And I knew about that scene, obviously, but they even, foreshadow it in the movie by putting him over.
Indeed, yes. Sam Elliott wants him to forget about the last time he ripped a guy's throat out.
I mean, they definitely did a good job of putting Dalton over. That was the one thing this movie got right. The problem is, it's a poor man's Mel Gibson, unfortunately. I'm not saying Patrick Swayze is, but this character is.
Yeah.
Or at least not even Mel Gibson, Martin Riggs. Only this character is Zen, and I don't know. I have no nostalgia to bring to this movie, so it's hard for me to even enjoy the badness of it. I do. I mean, there's definitely watchable points, and it's funny because I keep going back to my brother and I were out of town. We stayed at my sister's house, and we were watching YouTube videos in the morning, and there was this video I showed him and that I'd seen several times where an 11-year-old does this guitar solo with a band, and they refer to him, they go, "Get him a chair, the strap is too long. He can be like," what's his name?
Jeff Healey.
Jeff Healey from Roadhouse. I was like, reference I didn't get the other 10 times I watched this video, and today I get it.
Jeff Healey's amazing, by the way.
Yes.
He's really great. The detail about the bar with the chicken wire wrapped around the stage because people are whipping beers at it constantly.
As if glass breaking through chicken wire is not going to cut you still. And bands are going to actually keep coming back night after
Well,
night.
apparently they
sound good, though.
Apparently they're the only band that ever they're the house band, apparently, because they're there every night.
Yet they know Dalton. It's like they go there first, and then he follows, and then they clean up they kick Terry Funk out of there. And
Oh yeah, Terry Funk. Oh man, those Brad Wesley minions are hilarious. Those guys just are all terrible.
they're Scooby-Doo characters only in a rated R movie. I mean, they're that dumb.
Yeah. It is fun watching them get beat up, though. They do get beat up very well.
It does make me wonder what a Ronda Rousey Roadhouse remake would have been like.
Boy, that does sound fun now, doesn't it?
I would like to think they'd know how bad it is, and I mean, I don't know how they would do it.
It's a thin line. Like, if you're too knowing, the only good thing about Roadhouse is that they have no idea what they're doing.
Right, but Swamp Thing knew what they were doing, and it worked.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but
It's a
again,
thin line,
that's
though.
also a blue or B movie.
It's also like Swamp Thing. You have to. You don't have an option when you're making Swamp Thing to try and take that seriously.
And yeah, and really the only thing that this movie got right was kind of the sexy stuff. And I don't really. I mean, I guess you could do that with Ronda Rousey, but it's more for. That's not necessary for that movie. They're
Sexy
not
to a
doing
point. Like I guess what Swayze and Kelly Lynch are kind of sexy. The rest of the movie is really gross. Like,
Well, that's what I mean. The Patrick Swayze,
bizarrely
Kelly
gross.
McGillis stuff.
Kelly Lynch.
Is it Lynch?
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all right.
But yeah, that's. Yeah, I still want to see. I know they're not doing it now, but.
I adore this movie for all the wrong reasons, not the reasons that the filmmakers intend. It's a glorious, glorious, awful movie. And every time I watch it, I have to take a shower afterwards because I feel so disgusting.
I had to leave to the concert. I put it on at 6 a.m, watched it, then left.
It's so sleazy, I fear venereal disease every time I watch this movie.
I did stand in the rain for 20 minutes and got a nice shower. So maybe that was needed. The audience is so much more female than male. I feel, at least from the people I know that
Right.
talk about this movie.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of beefcake in there with with Swayze, of course, and then even Sam Elliott to a point.
I know, but I don't know. There's other movies where it's more male and it's a lot of beefcake in it too.
Yeah, but this one he's shirtless doing Tai Chi.
Yeah,
Sunshine.
But it definitely goes to a guy movie at the end, or they try to. And there's a lot of guy movies, like you said, the uncomfortable sex scene early on, the rubbing of boobs,
Yeah.
and then having that joke. Those are definitely guy jokes, or stereotypical guy jokes.
Yeah.
So what about
That's
Point
Roadhouse.
Break?
Point Break. What is his name in the movie? What's Keanu's name in the movie? Is it Johnny Utah?
Yes.
He's a former football player who had a knee injury, and then he ends up going into the DEA, partnering with Gary Busey, trying to take down the presidents, who are a group of bank robbers who wear presidents' masks when they rob banks. And they're extreme sports guys. They love extreme, jumping out of planes and surfing and so on. And the thrill of bank robbery, and Johnny Utah is going to infiltrate them and take them down.
In a lot of ways, Point Break is like the Fast and the Furious before Fast and the Furious.
That is so true. That is so painfully true. Swayze is like a perfect amount of Vin Diesel before Vin Diesel, and Keanu is the perfect blank slate Paul Walker kind of guy. Yeah, that's definitely true. There's no doubt about that.
And they have that moment at the end.
He's not coming back. Oh man, it is an entertaining movie, and it is kind of exciting at times. That foot chase between Keanu and Patrick Swayze is genuinely good action, and really it is pulse pounding. It really does grab you and hold you. This is a good director who made this movie, and I can't remember.
Catherine Bigelow.
Catherine Bigelow, thank you. Yes, a very good director, Academy Award-winning director. Like, she knows what she's doing. So, she gets good performances out of everybody in the movie. Keanu's a little bit off, a little bit blank. He's kind of the least part of the movie for me. Swayze is kind of going the opposite direction, being overly colorful at times and a little too extreme. But overall, I mean, it is fun to watch, though.
It's weird to me, though. I made it to, like, 94, 95 before I even heard of this movie.
Oh, yeah?
I was at baseball camp, and I was telling a friend, my roommate, about Who's the Man, and he was telling me about Point Break. So that's how I discovered Point Break, was, like, 3 years after it came out.
Yeah.
You know, being a movie guy, somehow this movie just escaped even go to the video store all the time. I just never saw the cover, no nothing. And then all of a sudden it's like, everybody's seen Point Break. I think my dad had even seen it, and he's like, yeah. Really? You haven't seen Point Break? And so, I mean, having that story to go with it makes me appreciate it that much more. And yeah, I don't feel like I'm laughing at it, but I kind of enjoy the cheesiness of some of the, the action and the ending. I find it awesome and hilarious at the same time.
You think Keanu Reeves and like Flea are like really good friends?
Because they're bass players.
Because they were in two movies together at least, maybe more.
What was the other one there?
Flea was in my Own Private Idaho. You didn't know?
Oh, that's right. Duh.
Like right in a row, they're in 2 movies together.
Yeah, I don't.
Again, Keanu Reeves, the unknowable.
I kind of feel like this is like a transitional movie for him. Like he does kind of go the action route after this for a while at least. I mean, maybe he has stuff in between, but
he goes on from here to make. He goes in weird directions. Like he'll make after this, he makes Chain Reaction, which is god awful, and he goes into Fat Keanu phase for a little while, and
Speed's in there. A couple
Feeling
years later.
Minnesota.
And The Matrix is right after all that, I guess.
Oh, it's a lot of weird. It's a weird time to be Keanu, but he's had a strange career. Like I did a whole 5 best, 5 worst of Keanu list, and it proves out like what I said. A good director gets something out of him that a bad director can't. And a bad director doesn't know what to do with him, and he's bored and he's not interested. And you can sense it in movies like Sweet November or The Watcher or Destination Wedding, which is just unwatchable.
You still haven't seen Knock Knock, which is not him being bored. He's invested and he's trying, and they fail. It is like the perfect combination of bad that it's just almost room level bad, like so bad it's like it's genuine. I don't know. I won't go that far. The Room at least is genuine. I don't know. It is just bad. You need to see it. It's a different kind of bad. It's not Roadhouse bad. It's
right.
It's kind of its own. It created its own lane of bad.
Interesting.
And it would definitely be the number 1 on your worst.
I don't know. You've not seen Destination Wedding. You don't know how bad that is.
I have not, but I have seen Knock Knock. And I've seen a lot of movies, not as many as you, but I've seen it. And this one hangs out there with, that Paul Schrader movie and a couple other ones. Yeah.
You don't know torture until you've seen Destination Wedding, though. It's torture porn of a whole different variety.
Well, this Christmas you can watch Knock Knock, and I'll watch it.
Save it for Keanu's birthday.
Why Christmas? I don't know. I guess that is a show, though. Next week is all Aladdin, everything Aladdin. Booksmart also comes out. Brightburn, I think we might get that. I'm kind of interested in that. Kind of like Superman, only bad.
I don't quite know how you make that movie, so I'm kind of intrigued.
Right. And as much, I mean, I like Elizabeth Banks, but she does miss on occasion. And Booksmart, I'm interested in too.
Heard great things about it.
Olivia Wilde directing it.
Hopefully, I'm going to get to interview Olivia Wilde this week.
Nice.
That would be pretty cool.
Have to listen to Sean's radio show. With that, our undisputed classic is Aladdin. That'll be a fun and nice, easy one. And then, I don't know if
the 1923 silent version.
Yes.
I didn't tell you that.
I've seen it multiple times. I haven't seen the cartoon yet. Is there a 1923 silent one?
There might be, actually. I don't
know. But turning 30 is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, along with Pink Cadillac. So I don't know if we'll have anybody to sit in with us next week, but I suppose it's always possible. We have a couple people that are going to bite that we're going to hopefully have rotating in and out. So we'll
Indiana
see
Jones without Josh. I mean, you're just gonna level Harrison Ford for like a half an hour.
Either that, or I'll be like, Last Crusade is so much better than Raiders of the Lost.
If we keep talking like this, maybe he'll come back and do the show for a week.
I don't think he listens anymore. No, but we got there's a lot of good movies coming up. I think after Indiana Jones and Pink Cadillac, the next week is Dead Poet Society and No Holds Barred. So that'll be, I'm sure we'll be able
which will win. To put that into Flick Chart, which one's the winner?
I've never seen No Holds Barred.
Oh, wow. Oh, you got to see No Holds Barred.
I'm going to try to knock that one out this week along with... I haven't seen Pink Cadillac either. I've seen Last Crusade.
I've seen Pink Cadillac. I don't remember it very well. I might try and watch it.
Yeah, I remember my dad watching it. But that is our show. I want to thank our Patreon supporters for helping support the show. We'll start with the key grip level. Charlie Messing and Jason Bryant, the Hall of Fame podcaster. I should say Hall of Fame broadcaster. I think he's in... Well, I suppose it's through podcasting, too. Our character actors, Cousin Jeff, Josh and Beth Paul, and Christina Cato.
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Our special effects level, Corey Finneran and Sarah Morrell.
May the Force be with you.
Ivy and we recorded their first episode without Corey. I've been telling him to do that ever since we did that here without me. What else? Our associate producer, Jason Mollett.
Everybody has to eat shaving cream once in a while.
Shouldn't say that. I don't know for sure if it's without him. He said they were going to do without him. I haven't listened to the episode yet. I'm assuming it's without him. If he's on it, I apologize for giving you guys all false hope that Corey wasn't going to be. And our movie stars, Dave Stevers and Uncle Jeff.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
If you want to be a Patreon supporter, head over to IHateCritics.net/Patreon or click on the PayPal link that's right above it. There's also the podcast merch tab there if you want to purchase a shirt or something, help out the podcast, and help us grow the show. Try to find other listeners for us. It's always fun to argue over movies, and even if they don't agree with us, tell them to get on Facebook and tell them why they don't agree with us. We like to interact and have fun with that because we don't take it too seriously. It's a lot of fun. So with that, we'll move on to Flick Chart, and I'll ask you, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets or Gone Baby Gone?
That's tough. I like Chamber of Secrets, but I love Gone Baby Gone. That was a really good movie. That one. I'm going to pick that one.
I'll go Gone Baby Gone too. I do have George here to help us decide. Master and Commander or Juno?
Juno.
I agree. A Good Day to Die Hard or The Devil's Advocate?
Ugh, that is brutal.
It's kind of Reeves week, though.
I'm going to pick Keanu.
I'm going to pick that as well. Wall-E or Cinderella Man?
Wall-E.
I agree. Shanghai Nights or Dr. Dolittle with Eddie Murphy?
Oh, wow. That is just complete brutality. Like, those are two absolute garbage movies. Shanghai Nights, I guess.
I'm going to go Dr. Dolittle. There's an uninspired coin flip. Shanghai Nights. Drive or Goldfinger?
Drive, the Ryan Gosling movie?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one.
I agree. Josh made me watch Goldfinger, so I can say that. This one's not fair. Chef or Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
Ooh, wow, that's tough. That is tough, but it's Kiss Kiss Bang
Kiss
Bang.
Kiss Bang Bang, but
barely.
I like them both the same,
amazing.
and I like them the same way.
Yeah.
It's the watchability and just the dialogue. It's just a lot of fun. Blade Runner 82 or Polar Express?
Blade Runner, by a lot.
Seven Samurai or I can't even pronounce. I'm just going to refresh altogether. Forrest Gump or Run Lola Run?
Run Lola Run. That's a funny combination, though.
The Sandlot or Casino?
Casino.
I agree. Godzilla 1998 or Boogie Nights?
Boogie Nights.
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade or Planet of the Apes? 68.
It's actually closer than it would seem. I mean, I really like Last Crusade, but I really like Planet of the Apes a lot. I'm going to go Last Crusade.
See, I almost wish you could do this next week. That's the one with Connery, right? Or is that?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And I remember liking it, but I've watched Planet of the Apes more recently, and so I'm going to lean Planet of the Apes, and I'll flip the coin. It is Last Crusade, though. But I wonder if I would change if I get a chance to see it. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban or Shawshank Redemption?
Harry Potter.
Sure. Training Day, High Anxiety, 1977.
Training Day.
I agree. The Green Mile or Any Given Sunday?
Ooh, boy, that's rough. I don't like either of those movies anymore. I used to like The Green Mile.
Long as fuck, too.
I used to like The Green Mile a lot when I first saw it, and it's kind of become like Crash now and Forrest Gump over time. You slowly chipping away at my love for Tom Hanks. Just kidding. I still love Tom Hanks. Gosh,
I love him too. It's just I love the big version of Tom Hanks so much that I can't not see that in every, other than like Philadelphia, in every Tom Hanks performance.
I guess I'll go Green Mile. Not by much.
Yeah, I don't know. Part of me wants to go Any Given Sunday. I don't like it, but
Let George decide.
I remember seeing it in the theater on Christmas Day. I need to get better at flipping. I'm hitting heads every time. Either that or just picking heads movies, and you can pick the tail movies. The Force Awakens or The Last Samurai?
Last Samurai, but I do...
Sweet, I thought we were going to have to flip for that one.
Last Samurai is a really good movie.
I know, I agree, but people like Force Awakens.
I like Force Awakens a lot, but I mean, it's a popcorn movie, and Last Samurai is also a popcorn movie, but it's a better popcorn movie. It's got a lot more production value.
Coming to America or The Bridge Over the River Kwai?
Bridge Over the River Kwai.
Yeah, as much as I like Coming to America. X-Men or Stargate?
X-Men.
Sure. Buried or Rocky 3?
Buried. I love Buried.
Me too. I don't have the connection to Rocky 3 like I do Rocky 4. Even then, I think Buried's a better movie. Black Snake Moan, American Gangster.
American Gangster.
I really don't know. I'll go American Gangster. Two movies that aren't as good as I thought they'd be.
True. Very true.
Any Given Sunday, The House of Sand and Fog.
House of Sand and Fog.
Agreed. Super Bad, A Bug's Life.
Super Bad.
Agree. It's as good as it gets, The Cable Guy.
Oh, as good as it gets, yeah.
That's the first time I've ever picked that movie. Rocky 2 or Hot Shots?
Hot Shots.
I'm going to go with Hot Shots. See, I can go against Rocky, Josh. The Full Monty, The Matrix.
The Matrix.
Is it fair that I make us flip for this? I'll flip it for real. I have a very bad record with this. God damn it. The Matrix it is.
If Josh were here, it would be The Matrix. So.
That's true. But he's not. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, The Usual Suspects.
It's Usual Suspects, I guess. Although, again, I do like Harry Potter a lot.
Frozen or Lost in Space?
Frozen. Lost in Space is terrible.
Wild Things or Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows?
Finally, I get to vote for Harry Potter. Jeez.
Finally, we can flip the coin. That's something that should not win-win. Come on, let's do it.
Harry Potter over Denise Richards' boobs.